and this is Outnumbered. I'm Melissa Francis. Here today is Harris Faulkner, Fox Business Network anchor Dagan McDowell, syndicated radio host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, and in the center seat today, retired U.S. Marine Corps bomb technician and Fox News contributor Joey Jones, and he is outnumbered. What I've heard from Democrats, though, is you always know you're losing the argument when they pivot to but Trump is worse. They were saying, well, what about what he said about Kim Jong-un?
Not the Democrats that I'm having cocktails with on the weekends, myself included. I lived in South Florida in the late 80s, early 90s. I have girlfriends that were raped by Fidel Castro's regime, his army. You provide free health care, awesome. You provide literacy, great. But that does not undo the torture, the beatings, the rapes, the unlawful imprisonments, the starvation that occurred with those people. I saw people climbing on the beach that swam from boats in Miami in the late 80s, early 90s, and so many people did. So I'm sorry, you can't say, I'm a democratic socialist, okay? And socialist is not a democratic socialist is not a socialist, and that's not a communist, and then praise not just communism, but a dictator and a communism regime.
So
I'm sorry.
I'm glad that you said that last part, and I'm brokenhearted about what you said in the first part, because that is the history that we are so aware of.
Correct.
In this country and around the world. And it should leave us brokenhearted to hear it again and to know that it happened. You and I got into a heated back and forth last week on the air when you said, no, you can just take the socialist part out of democratic socialists and you'll like his policies just fine. Now you see what I was trying to get you to understand.
I don't think that was me.
No, that was you, because we recued it and played it again. But this is what I was talking about. When you go on the C-SPAN YouTube channel and you look at 1991, June 13th was the last one that I watched yesterday. He was saying some of the same things back then. You cannot change a man but to change him out of diapers. My mother taught me that.
I retweeted
you cannot
that
change Bernie Sanders. This is who he is. And look, if some in your party completely embrace this, great. But what you're telling me is some of you having those cocktails on a Saturday night don't. What are you going to do with Bernie Sanders a second time around if he continues to gain like he did in 2016?
Well, this is exactly the conversation I have. When you have the polls show that over 80% in New Hampshire, 84% are angry. When you have the polls show, exit polls, and prior to the primaries and caucuses, that the majority of voters across the board, the number one thing they want is not policy. They want Trump to be a one-term president. Who, up until the one poll recently, all the polls have said, who could be that person? Joe Biden. Oh, okay. And then he's leading in the polls nationally. He'll be even leading in a state and then starts to drop. But why aren't those voters showing up for the caucuses and the primaries to vote for him? And if not him, to vote for some of the other moderates?
Do you think Bernie Sanders is their second choice?
No. I do think that, look, I'm a Democrat. Will I vote for Bernie Sanders over Trump?
From what you're saying.
I will vote for Bernie Sanders over Trump, and I will not stay home because I know how privileged I am as an American to have a vote.
Sanders is the key part that yokes us together is the dream part, right?
Absolutely.
I don't hear that coming from Bernie Sanders or the likes of Bernie Sanders. And, you know, something really resonated with me on that 60 Minutes interview when Anderson Cooper said to him, so you would take away everybody, I'm paraphrasing, you take away everybody's health care. There didn't seem to be a problem with that for Bernie Sanders. He really, in terms of your personal, private health care that you have now, the doctor you want to go to, those things. So at least he's not saying you can keep your doctor, because that wouldn't be true.
What bothers me is that even Democrats aren't saying, and maybe somebody will say tonight, even the price tag aside, it's not going to pass.
No.
It won't pass in the current demographic of the House, even with the Democratic majority.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said that.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
And that he would need to change.
It's not going to pass. It's not going to pass the current House and Senate.
So that's your bumper sticker, elect me, but most of my plans would never get passed.
But this is something the voters need to be aware of. I mean, you know, we can quibble about dollars and cents, but it will not pass.
So you think they should vote for Bernie Sanders anyway?
I think people should vote for whoever they choose to vote for, but Medicare for All is a program, and his specific programs and the way to pay for it, that others on the stage, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and others have said, it doesn't add up, it hurts the middle class, and it's not going to pass.
The politics of this are, Leslie, really really bad optics for anybody. And when I had Kellyanne Conway, advisor to the president in the White House, on yesterday, I said, can we please just set politics aside while we talk about the Dow that was at that moment plunging and coronavirus.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too.
And so we talked about the things that the administration is doing, and you can't wipe away those facts. They put a task force together very early on. The president was stopping back and forth flights through the State Department and working with the CDC early on, saying, you know what, we're going to have to look at the flight situation coming out of China. And he was already taking a lot of criticism for that. There's no win or right in this, except for the fact that we're caught in the middle as the American people. Can we just take the politics out?
We can take the politics out if this administration with this funding did the right thing. And
How do you know they haven't?
No, because what they're saying is, just like we had money before that was appropriated from one federal budget, like for the military, for the wall, that's the concern of Democrats, that this money that would be appropriated, almost $3 billion, which is insufficient.
So when it was $1 billion, the president was taking heat over the weekend.
It's not just the dollar amount, it's the way it could be appropriated to something else. That's the problem for Democrats more so. If this were specifically and solely for coronavirus, Democrats would be on board.
Then quit complaining and write the
want
legislation. More. Give him the parameters. Give him the left and right lateral limits. When you just take the pulpit and talk about how, oh, the president is terrible because he didn't plan for this. I mean, it's the ultimate cheap shot in politics.
Oh my God, President, you didn't plan
for this epidemic coming out of China. How dare you? Let's not give you any money to do anything about it. That's not a winning
But when
statement.
you have legislation that comes forward that you don't agree with, you don't stand up and say, this is why we're not signing it. This is why we don't agree with it.
I want to get back. The Washington Post wrote, the quiet but proactive effort to obtain more money reflects the White House's response to the coronavirus. They sought to downplay the risk, the White House did, to the public while working behind the scenes to bolster the government's response, because you don't want to create panic, which is what Chuck Schumer's trying to do for his own political gain.
Leslie?
I don't think he's trying to create panic. I think the panic is coming out of false information that comes out of China, comes into this country, comes
non-information.
Comes online. People think that coronavirus is from Corona beer and that if you drink a Modelo, that you're going to be cured. Seriously, and people believe in this.
Nobody thinks that.
It keeps resurfacing. Obviously, this is Oppo. Who is so threatened that they're putting this stuff out there?
I don't know. It's helping Elizabeth Warren, isn't it? I mean, it helped her in the last debate, and tonight she is going to go after him once again, and this just gives her more ammunition because now she has a personal, attack against her, a woman, in this fight. But you know where Mike Bloomberg, to your point, he was a Republican, an independent, and Democrat. What is he? That is, I don't like when people aren't authentic. At least Bernie is. But attacking Barack Obama. Remember what happened to Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris attacked Barack Obama. Her numbers went down. People didn't like her. And then in the next debate, every single candidate praised Barack Obama. It was almost as if a memo.
I remember.
It was like a memo came from Barack
and Michelle. It was like
a
memo? Maybe it was a memo.
I think there was a memo that came out from former President Obama and Michelle saying, you guys got to fix this.
Once in their world, that's enough. The only person she's hurting is her own argument in these cases that are 5-4 split. But the thing is, I want transparency. So I want to know what she's thinking. I like that.
We know what they're thinking. The reason elections are so essential and the reason that everybody, left or right, is encouraged to vote is because one of the things we know the president absolutely has the power to do is to stack the court in their favor.
True.
A conservative court, a liberal court, okay? A Democrat's going to put liberal judges in, and a conservative president is going to put conservative judges in. So the president talking about recusal, it's crazy if somebody doesn't agree with him. If he wants more people on the court, he hopes for 4 more years and hopes people retire or die, I guess. But they know how they feel because when they argue, they're arguing those positions that they came to the bench. It isn't. It isn't. I'm sorry, you know what you said a few weeks ago, something, and I agree with 100%, which you said, I think sometimes moderates at this point, when they see the president tweet, they're like, oh yeah, oh well, whatever. Yeah. And I think it does become that way, which is, he's asking 2 Supreme Court judges to recuse themselves. Oh, well. When he is angry, when somebody doesn't agree with him, this is what he does. I don't find it mature. I don't find it professional or presidential, but this is what he does.
But he just tweeted. I mean, on Friday, when this decision came out, there was immediate reaction to the fact that she seemed to, in writing, point her finger at the other side of her own bench. And I think that's what was unusual. And that's what I'm talking about is, like, how did we get to this point where she's doing that? Is that good because, it's transparent, as we said? Is it bad, or is it not that flagrant? I mean, I read to you the exact words, because that's what I was interested in, was what were the exact words that she wrote?
I love the fact that we're having a debate about the judicial system, because her issue is that the government or the administration is coming to the Supreme Court time and again with an emergency, seeking stays in an unprecedented number of cases. I just love the fact that it's about the process.
Yeah, something real.
She wants the emergency to be confirmed and convinced to the court of which she is a part of. And she hasn't seen so many cases bypassing the lower courts.
And they can sit back and...
People were stopping this from happening back at home again, and it matured as people went to the polling booths and voted over different midterms and presidential elections. We didn't fight a 20-year war. We fought 10 two-year wars in between midterms and presidential elections.
Did we know that Osama bin Laden had moved back then?
You're asking the wrong guy. All I did was fight the war. I didn't plan it.
Wow. Leslie?
I lived in Pakistan, and I've seen what the Taliban does to people in countries. I haven't served our nation as you did, and thank you for doing that for my freedoms. I don't, it's not just negotiating with terrorists, it's these terrorists. They cannot be trusted. The word peace and Taliban in the same sentence, I don't trust it. I don't buy it. I never have. I don't think I ever will.
I do.